Hey there, HorseCenter fans. Matt and I are back with another exciting edition of the show. Matt, we are going from Paris, France to Santa Anita to Belmont and, of course, to Keeneland. So much to talk about on this week's show.
Yeah, Brian, we could only pick out a handful of big races on a weekend where there are 10 or so final win-and-you're-in races between New York and Keeneland. Tremendous weekend of racing.
Absolutely. A late 2-year-olds. Omaha Beach returns. Plus, Matt and I are talking about Jockey Club Gold Cup controversy. Watch it all right now on HorseCenter. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the outstanding pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I am good, Brian. How are you?
I'm recovering, Matt. I'm recovering, but getting there. Matt, we have a great weekend of racing. Dare I say, one of the best weekends of racing in a long time. Let's start. Where do you want to start? How about we start out west? Because there's a big return happening, and it's a tough spot as Omaha Beach returns in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship.
Yeah, I guess it's a tough spot. It's a kind of a little bit of a head scratcher for me. Not quite sure I understand this choice of races by Richard Mandella, but who am I to question a trainer as talented as that?
Well, he is a Hall of Fame trainer, Matt. He's won a lot more Breeders' Cups than you have. So, hey. Yeah, it is, and me for that matter. It is a tough spot because it's 6 furlongs. It's his first race in a long time since winning at Oaklawn Park back in the spring, and he's facing some very fast horses, Chancelot and Flagstaff among them. But of course, last we saw Omaha Beach, Matt, he looked very good, and I know you were a big fan.
Yeah, that's true, and you know, trying to think maybe the way. Mandela's thinking, you know, if we go back to earlier in the year when Omaha Beach was struggling a little bit to break his maiden, Mandela cut him back to a sprint. It was 7 furlongs in that case, but cut him back in distance to a sprint, and things turned around for Omaha Beach in there. So, you know, maybe he's thinking about that a little bit. He's had very, very fast workout, 46 and change at Santa Anita in preparation for this race, keeping in mind that this is not the Santa Anita racetrack that we are all used to for years and years and years. It is not a hard and fast track. Thus far, it seems to be a very deep and slowish track. So that was an impressive workout.
Absolutely, Matt. First off, Omaha Beach was an absolutely terrific 3-year-old. He was the favorite. Don't forget, he was the favorite Kentucky Derby week before his scratch out of the race. Of course, he won a maiden race, as you mentioned, at 7 furlongs out there by 9 lengths in the slop, very fast. And then he went to Arkansas. He beat Game Winner. He beat Improbable. He won the Rebel, a division of the Rebel. He won the Arkansas Derby. So we've all been waiting for this return, a beautiful son of Warfront. And we know he can sprint. This is a little bit old school where good horses used to come back with a tough sprint first back. And you don't see it nowadays. You see horses running less, and maybe winning percentage is part of that. But this is old school, and Mandela is a bit old school. So he's bringing him back sprinting. It's great to have him back. He might still be the most talented horse of this 3-year-old male crop. Having said that, I think it's a tough spot, and if I had to pick one horse, it would be Chancelot, who we know is very fast.
Yeah, and you know, and on top of it, I don't think we're sure what the next step will be for Omaha Beach. If we'll see, I mean, the year is winding down, and so it's hard to know what's going to happen. I got to assume he's not going to keep racing, you know, throughout the winter. So that's another interesting part of it. But, you know, you talk about Chancelot, and of course we all remember that stunning victory at Saratoga with the huge speed figure earned, and then came back and got beat in his next race. Hey, and let's face it, there's question marks for Chancelot here coming off of that race and heading out to California on a racetrack that is going to be extremely different than the racetrack at Monmouth Park on which he trains, and and the Saratoga Strip. So he's got to ship cross country and get on a surface that who knows if he's going to like it or not.
Yeah, good points, Matt. I really do like Chance a lot better at 6 furlongs than 7 furlongs. Last time he was beaten late in that 7 furlong Grade 1 race. Now he's back to 6. I think that helps him a lot. And I do want to mention Flagstaff again because this is a 5-year-old horse that I think is ready for graded stakes sprinting. His races recently have been really good. So don't sleep on Flagstaff. All eyes on Omaha Beach. Secondary eyes are on Chance a lot. But Flagstaff, the older horse, might beat them both. A really interesting sprint race. Having said that, it's good to have Omaha Beach back again in the mix, whether he's going to take it slow and maybe look for races like the Malibu, maybe the Pegasus next January, or he's going to be pushed a little bit more in the fall. We'll see, but it's good to have him back. All right, Matt, let's switch gears. Let's go to the 2-year-olds, the horses we're going to be talking a lot about the next 6 months. Let's start in the Champaign in New York. And certainly one of the most impressive 2-year-olds so far this year has been the son of Hardspun for trainer Jimmy Jerkins. Of course, I'm talking about Green Light Go.
Yeah, the Derby Trail kicks off in New York with the Champaign, the 1-turn mile, the first Derby points race of the season in New York. And yeah, Green Light Go for Jimmy Jerkins. Impressive maiden winner, impressive winner of the Saratoga Special. And that right there gives him a little bit of an experience edge with a victory in a stakes race under his belt. Hard spun. Jerkins was thinking about coming back in the hopeful, but then decided to give a little more time and a little extra distance in the Champaign.
Yeah, it's a mile, the Champaign. It is a 1-turn mile, though, but still a really good race and a good prep, of course, for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, which will be just 4 weeks away. Green Light Go, Matt, I've been impressed not only with his running style, where he can kind of show a little bit of early speed, but still have a lot left in the stretch to bring it home. I've also been impressed with his physicality, Matt. He looks like a big, strong 2-year-old, almost a man among boys in his first 2 races. So really looking forward to this. He could be the best 2-year-old in the country, and the Champaign could be a real launching pad to big things to come for Green Light Go. He's the favorite. Second choice on the morning line, Matt, is a New York bred who's only had 1 race. Talking about Tiz the Law, son of Constitution, who we know is the hottest young sire out there. And it really looked like a fast and a key New York bred maiden race that he's coming out of.
Yeah, Tiz the Law and another Constitution, and we'll be certainly talking about Constitution a couple more times as the show goes on. But this one, interestingly, was a $100,000-ish kind of purchase. It reunites the Funny Side team, New York bred, Saratoga are the owners, Barclay tag. But yes, was a very impressive win in that New York race. Looks like the kind of horse that'll appreciate more distance, and actually got the highest buyer's speed figure of any horse in this field by a good 5-6 points. Yeah,
if you're a buyer person, that is something to take note of. How good Tiz the Law's maiden special weight. Again, it was New York breds, but the second horse in that race I think looks pretty good too, Matt. Tiz the Law is certainly one to watch out for. Second choice, second race of his life in the Champaign, stretching out to a mile. I'm not convinced at the odds, but hey, he's a horse who could be any kind. Saratoga back in the news. Another horse I am high on, Matt. We mentioned, horses who are doing well back in our juvenile show last month, folks. If you haven't seen that juvenile showcase show last month on HorseCenter, I urge you to go back and check it out. But the horses Matt and I talked about are coming back and winning. 2 of the horses we talked about were, of course, Green Light Go, but also 3 Technique, a son of Mr. Speaker, owned by the coach, Bill Parcells. Matt, I think he's run 3 good races already. Like Green Light Go, he has experience at both Belmont and Saratoga. And his last 7 furlongs was his best yet, where he really rolled down the stretch.
Yeah, and he's trained by Jeremiah Engelhardt. And for those of you fans who don't follow New York on a regular basis, he is a trainer to take note of who, I don't know if I can say he specializes in 2-year-olds, but he has had an absolutely sensational year this year with 2-year-olds. They usually come out running in their debuts, so it's worth keeping an eye on Jeremiah's horses. It did take this one a few races to break his maiden, but that was because in his second race he ran into a really, really good horse in Basin, who is on the shelf now, but went from that maiden special weight to winning the Hopeful. So 3 Techniques has some good seasoning under his belt, a son of Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, he looks like a horse who would want to go longer. Again, this Champagne's only 1 mile, but 1 turn, but it is a mile. So 3 Technique, yeah, I think he's a horse to watch out for. 3 good races. Last one was his best yet. Having said all that, Matt, the Champagne Gozilla adds some speed. Alpha 66 has a nice debut win. But the Champagne really boils down to me, how good is Green Light Go right now? Because love his first 2 races. 1 turn, 1 mile should be right up his alley. I'm kind of high on the favorite, unfortunately, but I want to see Green Light Go move forward.
Yes, I do too, and I kind of feel the same way in there. Some of these horses we mentioned seem to have some nice talent, but maybe not quite as mature and as talented as the Jimmy Jerkins runner.
All right, that's the Champagne, Matt. Let's move over to Keeneland. Keeneland has an absolutely wonderful 3-day weekend, opening weekend here in Lexington, Kentucky. A lot of big races. Let's talk about a few of them, and we'll stick with the 2-year-olds to start with, Matt. The Breeders' Futurity, the first horse we need to talk about is Gouverneur Morris, who, another son of Constitution. This one for trainer Todd Pletcher. There was talk about this horse before he ever ran. He caught a sloppy track for his debut, but it was impressive.
Yeah, he certainly did. He went into the gate as an odds-on favorite in there, and Pletcher wasn't scared away by the sloppy track, and this one was really good that day. Blew the field away by 8 lengths. So again, we always take those sloppy track blowouts with a grain of salt, but this one had a lot of hype going into the race.
A lot of hype, and I saw some things in the race that make me think it wasn't just one of those slop races where you get out there and he circled horses. He went wide. He exploded at the far turn and into the stretch. And with the workouts, with the talk, certainly Gouverneur Morris is a horse to watch out for. Having said that, he only had the maiden sprint in the slop. Now he's got to come to Keeneland and go 2 turns. So it's a big test. He's also drawn pretty far outside. So it might be a beatable favorite in here, but a horse who could be any kind. A few others I want to mention, Matt. By Your Side is the Sanford winner. Maxfield, the son of Street Scent, was a first-out winner rallying at Churchill Downs. Ajaweed, an impressive maiden winner, second out at Belmont Park. But the horse I think is most interesting to me, Drew the Rail, and has a lot of speed, a son of Tappet, named Tappet to win for trainer Mark Cassie.
Yeah, a Tappet, 2-year-old Cassie. We're not used to these Tappets hitting their best stride in their 2-year-old years on the rail in there. Could be any kind in there. You mentioned By Your Side for Eddie Keneally with the Sanford win. He came back and ran 5th in the Hopeful as another son of Constitution. I'm going to throw in one more in there. Steve Asmussen has a son of Street Sense in there named Life on the Road.
Yeah, he's a winner at Ellis Park. I'm not sure what to make of that win at Ellis Park, but another horse that could be good. By Your Side, don't forget the Hopeful was a sloppy track. So if you can draw a line through that for By Your Side, a horse who makes some sense. Aja Weed. What'd you think of that maiden win? Did you see the maiden win at Belmont for Aja Weed, the son of Curlin?
Yeah, Ajaweed is an interesting horse to look at in this race as a son of Curlin. You know, we usually expect Curlins to mature and hit their best as 3-year-olds, or even later than that. But he comes from the barn of Kieran McLaughlin, who, you know, is a very careful and cautious trainer. So I assume Kieran likes what he's seen so far, and you know, McLaughlin's horses tend to improve after their maiden special weights as they get into even better shape. So good odds on that one, probably. So one to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting horses in this Breeders' Futurity. I'm going to side with Tap It to win. I think the reason I'm doing it is speed on the rail. I know how effective that can be at Keeneland. If Tap It to win can get out there, I think he might be tough to catch. Gouverneur Morris might be the one with the most upside, but like we said, a lot of interesting horses in the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. The hits keep rolling at Keeneland. Let's talk about a few of them, Matt. Saturday, I think, might be the best race of all. It's the First Lady, the females, the fillies and mares on the grass. You got a couple of winning machines in this race, Matt. I'm talking about Rushing Fall, 8-10 Lifetime, and Basilica has just been mowing them down consistently in California for almost 2 years now.
It is a really interesting field. Throw in there a lightly raced winning machine in Juliet Foxtrot, who has won 3 out of 4 of her races, with her only loss actually coming to Basilica. So there's another one that we know likes to find the winner circle in there. But, you know, you take a look at Rushing Fall. Let's remember this Chad Brown runner has won 8 out of 10 career starts. And one of those losses, the most recent one, came to Sister Charlie, of all horses, the best female turf horse in the country without dispute, in the Diana. So, you know, you're looking at a horse that it's hard to say tough things about. Then there's Basilica, who has 10 wins out of 12 starts. We mentioned that she's shipping from the West for Jerry Hollendorfer to Keeneland. So I think that'll be a little bit of a challenge for that one. One of those 2 losses that she has recently came to Uni, another Chad Brown runner who is also in this race, who put together 5 wins in a row this year.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. It's an excellent First Lady. I didn't call it the race of the weekend, at least in America, for no reason. Rushing Fall is terrific. She's a deserving favorite. Only a couple of horses have ever finished ahead of her. She's really good at Keeneland. There is a bunch of horses, though, who like to be on or near the lead, or similar running styles with Rushing Fall, and I think that could make life just a little bit difficult. You mentioned one. Ever since Juliet Foxtrot has gotten to the Brad Cox barn, she didn't look like anything special, frankly, in Europe. But since she's come here, you mentioned the 4 races she's run, she's been terrific. So Juliet Foxtrot is a major threat in here as well. And again, a similar running style. There's a couple others with a lot of speed in this race. So I almost want to look towards the ralliers in here, as sacrilegious as that may be against Rushing Fall, and especially how good she is at Keeneland. But Basilica, coming from California, certainly could pick up the pieces. She's done it so many times. The former claimer has just been an outstanding find out there in California on the grass. But I'm going to side with the last one you mentioned, Uni. I think this sets up well for her. I really like her last race, where she had a little bit of trouble and then came running behind Got Stormy against Smales. In the 4-star Dave. I think this race might set up for her well. She didn't get it done last time she came to Keeneland, but I think this might be a really nice spot in a terrific race. Speaking of terrific races at Keeneland for fillies and mares, Matt, let's move one day farther forward to Sunday. They haven't been drawn yet, but we do know the main participants in the Spinster, and it has my mouth watering, Matt Shipman. Alate, one of my favorite horses in training, making her first start since that absolutely slobber knocker in the personal ensign against Midnight Basoo. Dunbar Road, the up and coming, the horse that I've been saying is the best 3-year-old filly in the country, coming off an Alabama win. Blue Prize won this race last year. She's a Julie's a multiple graded stakes winner, Matt. Spinster looks like a whole lot of fun on Sunday.
Yeah, it sure does, Brian. It doesn't look like it's going to be as big a field as some of the other races at Keeneland on this opening weekend. But, field size doesn't always mean that it's not a great race. And, what can you say? You're looking at Dunbar Road coming into Keeneland with those two big wins, one in the Mother Goose, one in the Alabama. Highly touted early on in the 3-year-old season also. And then you've got Elate in there, really, who, if you want to get down to it, her only losses this year have come to Midnight Bassu, who we know is just a phenomenal older horse. But, you got to have some questions, though, about the quality of victories that Elate has in those 2 grade 2s earlier in the year.
Yeah, well, a couple that she beat were Blue Prize and She's a Julie, and I think they're hard-hitting mares, Matt, that will get up into this picture if the favorites stumble at all. Dunbar Road, I think she's the question mark for me. I really do think she's got a ton of potential, but she's very lightly raced, coming out of a 1.25 mile race at Saratoga. I think this is a little bit tough for her. I always like Elate. I like her again in here, Matt. In fact, I think she can use this Spinster as a springboard to the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think Elate is a horse to keep an eye on in the 1.25 mile Breeders' Cup Classic. Trainer Bill Mott seems to be leaning that way, although the Spinster will tell part of that tale. She'll need to run well here at Keeneland. But I think this 1 1/8 race at Keeneland will set up well for her stalking style, and I think she's just got a little bit of class edge. We saw it together at Churchill Downs in the summer. I think she beats the 3-year-old. I think she beats the rest, and I think she goes to the Breeders' Cup Classic off a Spinster win, sir.
Wow. I don't know if I can agree with all that enthusiasm about Elate, Brian. What do you think? You think she's going to be a favorite in the race?
Yeah, I think Elate will be favored over Dunbar Road, but I think Dunbar Road will get a lot of action.
Yeah, I can't be taking Elate in this race as the favorite. This is one of those kind of races that I'm looking forward to watching, but not wagering. But I've fallen off the Elate bandwagon a little bit this year.
Yeah, well, she came back from an injury and. Easy wins at Churchill Downs in Delaware, and then Midnight Bassu, who you love, beat her by, an eyelash last time, Matt. So don't fall too far off the Elate bandwagon. Speaking of bandwagons, it's easy to jump on the Unable bandwagon. I believe she's won 12 in a row now, Matt. She's won the ARC the last 2 years. She's looking to become a 3-time winner of the Arc de Triomphe. That's something.
Yeah, Brian, I'm looking forward to Enable probably becoming the first horse to win the ARC 3 times. A lot of really good horses have tried to do it before, and it's a good field of horses that are going to try and upset Enable in here. But boy, she is so good. 12 wins in a row. I can't pick against Enable.
Yeah, the ARC, of course, we're talking about the big race in Paris, France, folks. I think it's the biggest turf race in the world. Enable, the great Enable, the daughter of Nathaniel, trained by John Gosden. Of course, she came here last year to Churchill Downs to win against the males in the Breeders' Cup Turf. It looks like she's not going to come over again. This may be her swan song or one of her last 2 races, but yeah, as Matt said, no horse has ever won 3 ARCs, and this great filly is looking to do so. She drew the 9-hole, Matt. Not the biggest of ARC fields, but she's got some competition inside and outside her. Her old friend Magical, who other than Enable has been absolutely a stellar filly and mare as well. She just can't get past Enable, is on one side, and the really up-and-coming 3-year-old from the same bar in Japan, a 3-year-old son Galileo, looks to be the second choice in here. So they bookend Enable in the starting gate. Hot French 3-year-old Satsis is in here. So it should be a good test. But of course, Matt and I, and I'm sure most of you, want to see Enable get it done, win her third arc, and really, Matt, go down as one of the greatest turf horses in the history of our sport.
Yeah, I think post time is 10:05 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday. If you are looking to watch the race, I think it's going to be on TVG. So that's not that early for everybody to wake up to see Enable win the arc again.
Sunday morning from Paris, from Longchamp, Enable going after number 13 in a row, third arc in a row. Hope she does it. All right, Matt, we just hit the tip of the iceberg with all these big races. And of course, we're going to be talking Breeders' Cup ad nauseum in the next few weeks. But we wanted to talk a lot about this great weekend of racing coming up. We didn't talk about a bunch of other good races in California, New York, and Kentucky, but we can only do so much. I did want to talk a little bit about what happened last week, though. The Jockey Club Gold Cup, Matt, I thought it was an absolutely terrific race. Four very good horses, and the entire stretch came down to Vino Rosso, Code of Honor, and it got me to my feet. What horse racing is all about, a terrific stretch battle. Vino Rosso, Code of Honor coming down to the wire together.
Yeah, hey, Vino Rosso, our old friend, Vino Rosso, the unpredictable Vino Rosso. And I got to give Irad Ortiz and Todd Pletcher credit in here. I assume they looked at the race and said, hey, there's not a lot of speed in there. We don't know if preservationists, if they even want to go to the lead. So they took the race into their own hands and sent Vino Rosso to the lead. And it was a heck of a strategy, Brian, because Vino Rosso really showed up in style on this day and battled it down through the inquiry after the race, and was disqualified and placed second behind Code of Honor. Yeah.
Let me say this. Irad Ortiz, you talked about a little bit, rode a great race in there. And I think Vino Rosso, they're learning, is a horse that needs to be pushed a little bit early. And he did really well in the Gold Cup out at Santa Anita when he did that, and he did really well here. Code of Honor ran a terrific race. As I said in my handicapping of the race, I think it didn't set up for Code of Honor so much with the lack of speed in here. And I boxed Vino Rosso with preservationist Code of Honor. So the result in disqualification cost me a few bucks in the exacta box, but nothing much. Still, I thought it was an absolutely horrible decision, sir. This is what we all hoped for.
And I have to disagree with you, Brian, about the decision. I think it was the only decision that could be made. It was a clear foul, and I cannot be part of the widespread discussion that is out there that says, yeah, but in New York, this is what they do. This is what they do. To me, 2 wrongs or 6 wrongs don't make a right. And Irad took advantage of the fact that he doesn't get disqualified very often, and kept on with the left-hand stick and kept on bothering Code of Honor. If he bumped him once and made a correction, then I'm fine with leaving it. But Irad knew exactly what he was doing. He continued to hit until he got to a point where he thought he had control of the race, then corrected and finished first. And I think the disqualification was the correct call. Should there be more consistency in what the stewards decide in New York? Yeah, maybe so, but that's a different discussion than the Jockey Club Gold Cup itself.
Yeah, Matt, for me, I thought it was one of the worst decisions in a big race I've ever seen. And I saw it in the jockeys, the trainer, and the owner's expression after the race. They were shocked. They were dumbfounded. And I think they had every reason to be. Let me say what I was starting to say before. This is everything we want in horse racing. This is 2 great horses coming down and they're running hard to the wire together. This is what we want, and the stewards ruined the race. They really did. Vino Rosso, Code of Honor. Code of Honor had every chance. Vino Rosso came out more than Code of Honor came in. I'll give you that. And yeah, it was a left-handed whip and a right-handed whip coming together. But two horses coming together, Matt. Call it hurting a little bit, if you will. But a mile and a quarter, great race, great finish. Code of Honor, by the way, had every chance to get by Vino Rosso. It didn't affect the decision, even though it's 6 inches. I know everybody's saying, or an inch or two. Everybody's saying, well, the reason they took him down is because it was such a close finish. That's BS. Vino Rosso won the race. He won the race to the wire. Again, this is everything we want in racing. Take down Sunday Silence against Easy Goer in the Preakness. You want these good races where horses are running their hearts out to the wire. This in fact, Midnight Bassoux earlier in the card won the Beldame and did much worse to Wildcat than certainly Vino Rosso did to Code of Honor. I think it was popularity decision with Velasquez and McGahee getting the decision, but you could see it in the Vino Rosso camp in their expression after the race. Just shocked. I was shocked, and again, I'll say this: the stewards took a classic race and they ruined it.
I can't disagree with you more, Brian.
All right. Well, good. We're on opposite ends of that spectrum. Midnight Bassoux, Matt, 7 in a row. I mentioned that she bothered Wildcat early a few times in the stretch, but then it was no contest from there. Midnight Bassoux, really, really an outstanding mare, having an even better season.
Yeah, Midnight Bassoux, and with loss of McKinsey in the Awesome again out there in California, the discussion of Midnight Bassoux as a possible horse of the year has heated up even more.
Yeah, and for me, it wasn't about McKinsey; it's about Bricks and Mortar. I think these two are really the two horses standing for horse of the year. But Midnight Bassoux, 7. Bricks and Mortar, if you're counting, has 5 wins out of 5 starts this year, and maybe a couple bigger races than Midnight Bassoux. Midnight Bassoux, people say, well, you can't be horse of the year if you just run only against females. We'll see if she can make it 8 for 8. What a year she's having. And the last race I want to mention from last week, Matt, is the Bosberg at New York, because that was similar to the Jockey Club Gold Cup, a really terrific stretch battle.
Yeah, it certainly was. And yeah, it was a battle between Imperial Hint, who was coming to Belmont off a big victory at Saratoga, and Firenze Fire, who's been dancing all these big dances, all these big sprint races, but the Jason Service trainee, they went into the race and looked at the field and said, holy moly, Imperial Hint's going to be loose on the lead. Firenze Fire isn't typically a horse that goes right up to the front, but they said, hey, we can't let Imperial Hint go. And they went with Firenze Fire and battled with Imperial Hint all the way. And hey, my hat's off to Firenze Fire in there with the way he fought Imperial Hint down to the wire.
Yeah, Firenze Fire is a horse who likes Belmont, a very good horse who ran his best race. But the little horse on the rail, make it 2 straight Vanderbilts, 2 straight Bosbergs for Imperial Hint. The little horse on the rail had something extra in his heart, not Schiffman, something extra to get to the wire first after, by all rights, Firenze Fire had him at the 8th pole, at the 16th pole. Huge win for Imperial Hint, back-to-back graded stakes wins. He'll go after the Breeders' Cup Sprint now, Matt, which will be his 3rd try in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. We know Roy H., the horse that won the last 2, is now out of that race. Oklahoma Derby, Owendale, I caught a good one, Matt. Owendale was my pick to win, and my long shot pick ran 2nd, so that was nice. But Owendale is a 3-year-old who I think long shot possibility. I see a lot of long shots looking at the Breeders' Cup Classic, and I say no chance. Owendale, I think, is a horse who could have a chance at a mile and a quarter. Well,
this Breeders' Cup Classic is the most wide open Breeders' Cup Classic that I can ever remember. And then thus you have conversations of Bill Mott saying, hey, field's looking pretty bad. I'm going to send you late in there, and et cetera. It is a interesting field, I shall put it, in the Classic, and it became even more interesting with the loss of the horse that everybody seemed to like, McKinsey, but I have had no interest in. So we'll see. Lots to talk about with the Classic over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, good point, because I think the Breeders' Cup Classic this year, Matt, is ripe for an upset. So we'll see as we get closer. A lot of the horses that we saw run this weekend will be in the Breeders' Cup Classic, including McKinsey, who, of course, was beaten by Mongolian Groom in his prep, the Awesome again. Wow, Matt Shipman, that's a lot that we covered this week on HorseCenter. We hope you stuck with us, folks. Matt and I don't usually disagree 1,000% like we did over the Jockey Club Gold Cup decision, but we agreed on a lot of other things, including all the good 2-year-olds, a naval rushing fall, Omaha Beach coming back. Wow, what a show. Can I get a parting shot from you, sir?
Hey, Brian, are you going to be at Keeneland at all over the weekend?
I'm going to be in and out a few days this weekend, Matt. I've got business in Lexington, Kentucky, but I'm going to sneak out to Keeneland whenever I am able. Sounds
good. So you'll take care of all the HorseCenter fans at Keeneland this weekend. I don't know. I might be at Belmont also, but 4 weeks till the Breeders' Cup. Everybody, please stay with us at HorseCenter as we get ready for that first weekend in November. And as always, I want to thank our producer, Brett Workman, for putting together the show.
Thanks to Brett Workman right here in Louisville, Kentucky. Thanks to you all for watching every week. Don't forget, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel here on Horse Racing Nation, go ahead and do that now. Also, thanks to our sponsor, the best contest site out there, that's Derby Wars. Folks, we are planning a lot of Breeders' Cup in the next month. Get you ready for the World Championships out at Santa Anita this year. Remember, it's Friday, November 1, Saturday, November 2. In fact, Matt and I will have 2 special Breeders' Cup shows that week. So follow HorseCenter all the way through the Breeders' Cup. We'll see you next week right here on HorseCenter.